Renegades, Rebels, and Outlaws. It is a new year and it is a new era here on the Chong Show with Chong. That's right. Foxy Hills is no longer a member of the guild. His conduct over the latter half of 2017 deplorable as both a friend and an officer. And so I am going it alone the rest of the way forward. I tried to record episodes with him multiple times, tried to coordinate the recording of episodes, and it just didn't work out. So we had a lot planned, or at least I had a lot planned, I should say, for the remainder of 2017, but we never got around to it. And I was waiting for Foxy Hills. So unfortunately, Foxy Hills no longer a part of the guild or the Chong Show. So I'm taking the reins here, and let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic year planned as far as interviews and multiple events that we will cover. So stay tuned for that. And just to name a few off the top of my head, we have interviews with Bigdad, the Guardian of Cenarius, the six-time champion. He has been a member of the Alliance Revolution since 2009, and I will be interviewing him first up here on episode 11 of The Chong Show. And we also have TBI Guild Master and infamous World PvPer on Vashj, Weldog, is going to be interviewed. He has agreed to be a guest on the show, and I might have either Emillea or Enderstone as my co-host for that one, see if they have any questions lined up. But I will give my blessing. I will give the kiss, the blessing, the Godfather kiss, and I will pick somebody to be my co-host for that one. That is going to be a fantastic trip down memory lane with the notorious Weldog. And beyond that, we have Smoky the Bear. Now, a few episodes back, I mentioned that Smoky was going to be on the show. It was during the Glenn Moreau interview, I believe, and Smoky just got burnt out on the game. He needed to step away. Didn't necessarily leave on good terms, but Smoky the Bear is back, and we will have him on the show later on this year. We'll get his thoughts on Legion, on Battle for Azeroth, and see what he's up to. That will be later on in the year. So Bigdad, Weldog, Smoky the Bear, all lined up and ready to go here as we progress through 2018. As I said, it is a new year, and it is a new Chong Show, and I think it will be better than ever. So glad that you are joining me here for episode 10, a historic episode, and what better episode to sort of have this turning point where it shifts and becomes just the Chong Show here for you on Revolution Radio. So episode 10, it is a new year, it is the turning point in the series, and I cannot wait to get started with today's show here. We have a lot to talk about. Let's start off with AFC 16. It's been a while since I reviewed an AFC or gave my thoughts and predictions, and this one is going to be a historic one. Now, we originally had it planned for January 20th, but due to some interference from trolls, just them coming out and trying to interfere with the fights, we decided to postpone the event, and so AFC 16 has been rescheduled for February 24th, 2018. The main event for AFC 16, Javar defending his title for the first time in 2018, against that infamous Weldog that I mentioned earlier on the show. So Javar versus Weldog. Weldog going to be making his AFC debut, and we'll talk to him later in the year about how TBI came about, but it was actually what he was telling me the other night. We were running a mythic with him. He actually told me that it was mainly started through dueling. So Weldog going back to his roots there in 1v1 action. We'll see if he can finally do what so many others have tried and failed to do before him, and we'll see if he can usurp the world championship from Javar. So Weldog is back for the time being in the foreseeable future, and that will be on February 24th, the main event. Now, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I think betting is a waste of money, but if I was a betting man, I would pick Javar to win this one. Now, why, you might ask? Well, there's that slight little fact that Javar is the greatest fighter in guild history, is a fantastic paladin, and hasn't lost yet since 2016, the fall of 2016. So, yeah, there's all those statistics that kind of add up and kind of lend to the idea that Javar is going to win this one. But I am looking forward to the fight against Weldog. He has long been a friend of mine, and it will be an honor to go against him 1v1 inside the Crusaders Coliseum on February 24th. Now, moving on, we have the co-main event. This was originally scheduled for January 20th, but as I said, due to trolls, it got pushed back. So here we are in the Crusaders Coliseum, the co-main event, the Warsong Championship on the line, Celeste versus Reesepuff. Now, Reesepuff will be looking to become the first Holy Paladin to win a championship in guild history. Now think about that. The guild was formed in 2008. We've been doing these 1v1 competitions since 2012. We have never had a Holy Paladin become champion. Reesepuff will look to become the first on February 24th. Another statistic, no Paladin has ever held the Warsong title. So there's a lot of history here. And then Celeste is looking to extend the record for most title defenses in the history of the Warsong Championship. Currently, she sits at 2. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about Iron Lungs for a second. There was a guy with a lot of potential. He had a lot of potential. He had a great persona, okay? And I'm being very candid here, and this is rare, but this is the new Chong Show, so bear with me here. His persona was something that I built, right? From day one, I saw the potential as a promoter to sort of give him that blessing that I talked about earlier, give him the nod, the go-ahead. And as a promoter, I saw the potential to build a Mike Tyson of the AFC and SNS. So I brought him in. I ignored his gear advantage. I mean, when he came in on the shores of Durotar, he outgeared everybody by 30 item levels. So keep that in mind, okay? So I ignored the gear advantage. If you noticed, if you had been there during any of those fights, you'll notice I never mentioned his gear advantage. And I gave him his persona, this Mike Tyson of the Sunday night fights of the AFC. I built him up and built him up and built him up. And then, unfortunately, somewhere along the line, Iron Lungs became paranoid. He became disconnected. I don't know what he thought. I guess the best term for it would be paranoia. And really, it just all ended. He didn't say anything to me. He didn't have the guts to log into Discord and tell me why he was leaving. He just kind of pulled a CWAS and took the coward's way out. So Iron Lungs, in my opinion, being totally candid with all of you, was overrated. It was all a sham. It was his item level that got him where he was. And the one time I brought that up, Iron Lungs, of course, was not happy that I brought that up, and he was very offended by it. A very childish maneuver that he pulled that night and logged out of Discord and used some very offensive terms. But Iron Lungs was really exposed. This whole issue, this whole persona that I had built up to kind of bubble him, and I tried to give him opponents that he could beat just because that's what you do as a promoter when you're trying to build someone up. But nonetheless, he was really exposed by two fighters, myself as Javar in the Renegades Brawl, and Celeste. And there's one final point I want to cover on Iron Lungs before I move on and get back to Celeste versus Reesepuff. You'll notice that when Iron Lungs was put against the wall, when he was put into any type of pressure, he ran the entire fight. And this was the case in the Winner's Deathmatch of War Games 12. I was as Shenush. We had Flame Vortex, Smoky Shaman there. And instead of fighting one of us and actually entertaining everybody, he ran for a straight 30 minutes around the arena, healed up, got a lucky crit on Flame Vortex, and then popped his cooldowns and went in. So, to me, that's not entertaining. And if you listen to the post-fight interview when he was exposed by Celeste and lost 0-4, he said, I was trying to be entertaining. Well, no, you weren't, because trying not to lose is not entertaining. You know what's entertaining? Trying to win. Going for the win. That's why Javar fights are entertaining to watch. That's why McGregor fights are entertaining to watch. Shenush fights are entertaining to watch. Cathaldus, Foxy Hills, Smokythebear, even Bigdad. You know what the difference is between all of their fights and Iron Lungs' fights? They played to win. And that's what you're going to see February 24th. Getting back to my point, Celeste versus Reesepuff. So now, after that very verbose explanation for Ironlings and what happened with him, it's just a shame. I feel like I wasted a lot of time on that guy, and it's not that I'm mad, it's more that I'm disappointed. But getting back to Reesepuff versus Celeste, I think this is going to be a very close fight. Reesepuff is very humble. She has long been a healer for Psycho, which was a huge horde guild back in the good old days of Vashj. But she's very humble, and she is overly humble, I think, in this situation, because I think she has been forged in fire. She has been put through trial by fire through the likes of Snapeworts, Swinging on Her, and Apple Strudel, and Red Bull, all these great players from Psycho and Envy that have kind of helped her become the Holy Paladin and the healer that she is. They have tempered her, they have trained her, they have worked with her, they have prepared her for this very moment, and I just don't think that anything Celeste has up his sleeve is going to be enough to throw Reesepuff off her game. So I think we are going to crown a new Warsong champion. You heard it here first on the Chong Show. I think we are going to crown a new Warsong champion, and I think Reesepuff is going to make history as the first Holy Paladin champion. So there you have it. Nothing against Celeste. Celeste is undoubtedly the greatest demon hunter that we have ever had on the roster, but I just don't think there's going to be enough difference there in what Celeste is going to throw at Reesepuff and what Snapeworts, Red Bull, Apple Strudel, what they have thrown at Reesepuff. She's going to be prepared for it. And the fact that she's worried and nervous is a good thing. Because when have you ever seen a fighter in our esports, in boxing, in UFC, when have you ever seen a fighter win a fight that they were overconfident about? Never happens. That's when you get knocked the hell out. That's when you stumble and fall and lose a fight that was winnable for you. So Reesepuff has the right mindset, but she's far too humble in this situation, in my opinion. Moving on, we have the second and final co-main event of the evening. Yours truly, the Texan Tyrant, the Con of War, Chong, up against Enderstone. This is a really exciting fight. It's a really fun fight. You have the future of tanks within the AFC and Enderstone up against the past and the very first tank champion in SNF history, Chong. And it's just interesting. I mean, I kicked Enderstone back in 2015, I want to say. I think he said something out of line, or he was trolling or something. He said something very disrespectful, and I kicked him. This was a time when I wasn't putting up with anything. We were trying to raid and progress through High Mall. We made it to top 10 progression, but we made it to top 10 progression through me being a ruthless SOB. And during that time, I didn't put up with anything, and I was sure as heck not going to put up with Enderstone and what he said. So whatever it was at the time, I can't remember specifically, but I did kick Enderstone. So what does that mean now? How does that matter here in 2018? Well, it makes for a very intriguing backstory to this matchup, and it just adds to it and kind of makes it a revenge fight for Enderstone, who has matured. He's ready to go. He's back. He's in it for the long haul. But, you know, how many times have we said that about other people, and then they end up doing what Ironlings did? So that's beside the point. But at least he claims he's in it for the long haul. So it just makes for an interesting storyline. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create a narrative, a storyline, and ultimately an entertaining experience for all of our guild members. So Chong versus Enderstone, this co-main event, Chong's final fight. I will be retiring Chong after this fight with Enderstone, win or lose. And when Enderstone came back, it hit me. It was an epiphany. And I thought, who better to end the career of Chong than Chong's former right-hand man, so to speak? And truly, Enderstone was the most loyal member that I can remember. He was totally devoted to Chong back during his, brief spurts here and there where he played with Alliance Revolution. He never was in our core or anything, but nonetheless, he was very loyal. And so you have this story of vengeance and Chong betraying the Alliance Revolution and switching to Horde, which I did. But it just makes for a great heel versus baby face scenario. and I cannot wait. Now, as for my prediction, if I'm being honest here, I think I'm going to win. Of course I think I'm going to win. Would you expect anything differently from Chong, the Khan of the War Games, the only undefeated captain in the history of the War Games, the 5-time... Okay, I digress. But you get the point. It's going to be a fun fight. It's a great co-main event, and it will end Chong's career in 1v1, which has been abysmal in the AFC. I don't think I have a single win yet on Chong, so it's time. Brewmaster is just atrocious compared to what it used to be. They completely gutted Brewmaster. Foxy used to say all the time the disc was ruined. I love disc, this expansion, and I'm showing that with Amir, who is my disc priest, who I'm currently bringing up through the ranks in the AFC. I love disc. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's stronger than ever, if I'm being completely honest. But Brewmaster, there's a bone I have to pick with Blizzard there, because they have gutted that spec for Monk. And I love Monk. I can't agree with those changes to Brewmaster, but nonetheless, it will be a fun fight, and that will be your co-main event on February 24th. So that is AFC 16, or at least the continuation of it from January 20th. That will be held on February 24th at 6 p.m. server, 9 Eastern Time, live from the Argent Coliseum. The Crusaders Coliseum in Icecrown, a beautiful arena, well-equipped, and it will be the headquarters for the AFC throughout 2018. So there are my picks for AFC 16. We have some great things lined up on the AFC front heading forward, and of course the 2018 SNF season just recently kicked off as well. So it's a very busy time for the guild. We also have the War Games coming up, and as most of you will likely know, Weldog will be leading Team Rebellion against Snapewarts and Team Renegade, Horde versus Alliance, Warsong Offensive, and Envy against the Alliance Revolution in TBI. That's going to be a fun one indeed. Two Vashj legends that I was able to corral and get together, and not to blow my own horn, but I just think it's a great testament to both of these players and to the guild that we were able to put this one together, and I can't wait to participate in it, because historically it is a fantastic thing for the server to have these two legends of Vashj going at it and once again leading their comrades into battle against one another. Should be a nice throwback to the 2008 through 2010 era. Final segment on the show here. This is kind of a turning point episode, as I said. I just wanted to get this episode out there, let everybody know what has been up, set the stage for the rest of the year as far as interviews and the new format for the show being just the Chong Show with Chong. So let's get on to the final segment here. Battle for Azeroth, and my opinion on it. Now, I will say this. The alpha is out for Battle for Azeroth, but don't expect it before November of this year. Now, you might say, November of this year? That's such a long time. All these players are coming back, including Weldog, and they're ready for PvP, and they're ready for this, and they're ready for that. Well, number one, World PvP will effectively die with Battle for Azeroth, which is ironic, but is also a good thing. Look, Blizzard can't really do anything against griefing, but I can tell you my personal experience in World PvP, okay? And let's address this right now. World PvP, okay? Since 2009, I cannot remember an instance of World PvP that wasn't ganking or harassment that wasn't coordinated. In other words, unless two guilds coordinated a World PvP event, it's always ganking, grieving, or a combination of the two. Case in point, January 20th, we had a group of spiteful former members who were kicked, who came out on a Saturday night with the intent of doing nothing else other than interfering with our event. It's because of that reason that I am all for this decision to do away with automated PvP across the world. You'll still be able to flag for PvP and coordinate World PvP events just as before, but now the gankers, the grievers, and the cancerous, toxic players who used to thrive under the old system will be left in the cold. Bravo to Blizzard, and bravo to Battle for Azeroth in doing this. Now, back to my point. Chong, how could you say that the expansion's not going to be around until November? You have to be crazy. What kind of drugs are you on? And when you tell me what kind of drugs you're on, I'd like some as well. Well, let me explain. First off, I'm not on any drugs besides caffeine and nicotine. Second, the alpha is out. But if you look at BlizzCon, they really didn't give any details. What they gave us was the skeleton of an expansion. Watch BlizzCon again. Watch the clips. Watch the different panels on Battle for Azeroth. They gave us ideas. They gave us screenshots. They didn't give us details. And in my opinion, we're a long way from the expansion being ready to be released. What I think is going to happen, this upcoming BlizzCon, they'll give us the full details on every new system and every new thing, and they'll have the beta out, and everybody will be excited. And then in late November/December, right in time for the holidays/Black Friday, they will release Battle for Azeroth. That's the earliest I see them releasing the next expansion. And as I said, the reason behind that statement, you look at BlizzCon and you look at what they previewed, it's probably since Warlords of Draenor, and this is not a good sign, but I think even Warlords of Draenor, the BlizzCon centered around that, had more details than this one. So I think Blizzard just kind of scrambled and put things together just so they could show us some stuff. But really, they're not ready to release that. They're nowhere near ready to release that. And if they were, we'd have more details on all of those systems that they previewed. So we will see. But I'm right 99.8% of the time. Many of you may not know that, but I can guarantee you, you will come to learn it as we head forward in 2018. Once again, I am so glad to have you listening to the show and joining me as we march forward, as we press on into the new year and a new era for the Chong Show with Chong. That's right. So, thank you for listening so far. So, just to recap what's coming up for the show, we have interviews with Bigdad, the Guardian of Cenarius, Weldog, the infamous TBI Battle Master, and Smokythebear, as long as other interviews with Emillea. And at some point down the road, maybe we'll get Reesepuff, Snape Warts, and some of the Horde players in here as well. I'd like that very much. And I'd like that almost as much as I like the fact that you have joined me here for the past half an hour as we've gone through the Battle for Azeroth discussion, my predictions and preview of AFC 16, and just an update as to what's been going on and what will be going on heading forward here for the show. So I am Chong, former Guildmaster of the Alliance Revolution. You have been listening to The Chong Show here on Revolution Radio. You'll hear me next time as we move forward to episode 11, where I will interview the Guardian of Cenarius himself and the 6-time champion, the General, Bigdad. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, Renegades, Rebels, and Outlaws, we press on.